There's nothing wrong with being a little cautious in a fearful situation, but so many of us let fear absolutely rule us. And so often our fears are ridiculous or blown way out of proportion. What are you afraid of? I mean, we're all afraid of something. Maybe you're afraid of public speaking, going to the dentist, flying in closed spaces, snakes or spiders. Me, I'm afraid of heights. Being up high causes my heart to leap right out of my chest. So the other day, I climbed up a ladder to the roof to unclog a downspout. It's an addition to our 2-story house, but it's only 1 story. From the ground, it didn't look very high. But once you're standing up on it and looking down, you might as well be standing on the tip of the Eiffel Tower. Going up the tall ladder, it was a breeze.
Need help with that ladder, honey?
After all, safety first.
It was coming down that was my problem. And it really wasn't even that. It was twisting around to get back on that stupid thing. It was sturdy, it didn't wobble. So that wasn't an issue, but my brain kept screaming, "You're going to die," in my head, which is stupid because even if I did fall, I'd just fall into grass that had been rained on, so it was pretty soft. At worst, I might break a limb, but I wouldn't die.
You could still die from a fall like that, but don't worry, love, we have your back.
And plenty of duct tape and rubber bands.
My heart was beating a mile a minute. But I finally twisted enough to get 1 foot on the top rung, and I stayed there like that for 5 minutes. 1 foot on the ladder and 1 foot still on the roof. That 5 minutes felt like the billions and billions of years before I was born. And I knew I couldn't stay like that forever, especially since it was getting ready to rain. So finally, I pushed my remaining foot off the roof and got it firmly on the ladder. And the rest was a piece of cake. I got safely back to terra firma. There's nothing wrong with being a little cautious in a fearful situation. But so many of us let fear absolutely rule us. And so often our fears are ridiculous or blown way out of proportion. And most of our fears, well, you know what? They're not even the big phobias I've already talked about, like fear of heights or claustrophobia. Most of our fears are the everyday variety. Afraid of losing someone, having to stand up in front of a group and talk, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, losing your job, fear of being alone, stuff like that. A lot of us go to great lengths to avoid having to be in those frightful situations. Mark Twain, he once said, "Do the thing that you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain." In other words, the way to deal with our fears is to just face them. Easier said than done, right? Well, yeah, I mean, take me ziplining over a deep canyon and I'm gonna mess my pants. Although, I actually have gone on a few really high roller coasters and I was scared as hell. I had to close my eyes all the way up that painful, slow thing to the top. But I did it. And you know what? I didn't die. I'm also afraid of talking in front of large groups, but I've done that too, more than once. And the thing about forcing yourself to face your fears is that every time you do it, it gets easier and easier. One of the ways that you can deal with these panic-inducing situations is to employ humor. Humor is a great fear deflator. For instance, create some of the worst-case scenarios in your head. You have to deliver a speech at a conference? Okay, so tell yourself, I might pee my pants at the podium, or the speech police will arrest me for giving the worst speech in history. My worst enemy will be in the crowd and they're gonna heckle me the whole time. Well, those are silly. And when those silly things don't happen, suddenly the situation looks like a piece of cake. I said that before, didn't I? Most importantly, I think we need to be kind to ourselves. Every time that you find yourself afraid of something, tell yourself the same thing that you would tell a family member or a friend. Tell yourself you're stronger than you think, and you can do this. You wouldn't tell a friend, be afraid, don't try anything new, would you? And when you've actually faced one of those fears, give yourself a good pat on the back. You deserve it. Facing our fears, I mean, it's not easy for anyone. But remember, courage is all about being afraid, doing it anyway. You are strong, you are resilient, and you can be brave if you choose to. And remember, Defeating your fears one by one and letting them drop to the wayside takes you to the road that we all seek, the road to happiness. As always, be happy, my friends.